ahead and get slides, please.
Recording in progress.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is November 13th, 2024, and this is a public meeting of the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, Community Engagement Subcommittee meeting. I'm Dory Grabinski, PCCEP Program Manager, and I'm going to pass it over to our co-chairs, Odelia and Tia, to get us started.
Unmute. I'm unmuting. Great. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight to the Community Engagement Subcommittee meeting. And I'd like to start with introductions with our names, pronouns, and title. My name is Tia Palafox, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the co-chair of the Community Engagement Subcommittee and member of PCCEP. Thank you. Odelia?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Odelia Zuckerman. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a youth member of PCCEP and the other co-chair of the Community Engagement Subcommittee, and I will pass it on to Carrie.
Thanks, Odelia. My name's Carrie Driver. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a member of the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing and also a member of this Community Engagement Subcommittee. And I'll pass it to Kyle.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Robinson. I am a member of PCCEP as well as a member of the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. And I will pass it next to, actually, I'm going to ask if a committee member will choose for me so that I don't have to fight with my screen because I can't see who all is in attendance.
Yeah, I can go. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah. Ashley Schofield, I use she, her pronouns. I'm a PCCEP member and currently the PCCEP Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing co-chair. Thanks everyone for being here. Kip, are you available to go?
Yeah, hopefully be able to get on camera in a little while. Kip Silverman, he, him pronouns, co-chair of the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. And hard to see the list. Who else do we have? I see Devontae.
Yeah, I can go. Sorry for my camera being off. In transit right now, but my name is Devontae Manyweather. And I am a PCCEP member, and I've been doing work with both committees, subcommittees. So I've just been showing up to all the meetings that I can. So I'm more than happy to be here, and thank you everyone for coming, and I'll pass it off to Jorge.
Hi everyone, I'm currently outside, so sorry if it's a bit windy. My name is Jorge. I am a youth member and I currently serve on both the Settlement and Policy as well as the Community Engagement Subcommittee. I don't know who else hasn't gone. If you haven't, please go ahead. If not, I'll pass it back to Dory.
I think Leslie looks like is the last.
Hi everyone. Sorry I'm a little late. Leslie Martinez, pronouns are she, hers, and I'm a member of the Community Engagement Subcommittee.
Thank you. Can we also have city employees introduce themselves and anyone from the Portland Police Bureau?
I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. Stephanie Howard from the mayor's office. Sorry, I'm off camera. My computer is being very difficult today, but good to see you all.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is Mary Claire Buckley, and I work at the Portland Police Bureau, and I apologize for being on the phone, but I can't get you on my computer for some reason tonight. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Is anyone from the Department of Justice here tonight? I don't see any.
No DOJ here, but I'll introduce myself again. I got a question in the chat. So again, my name is Dory Grabinski. I'm the PCCEP Program Manager. She, her. Thanks for being here.
Can you see me now? Antoinette Edwards, DOJ monitoring. Great to be here. Thank
Oh.
you.
Yes, great, thank you. Okay, and would anyone else like to introduce themselves or can do that in the chat?
Great, and I think we can move on to our community agreements.
Okay, I can read them out loud. In our community agreements for each PCCEP meeting, listen actively and respectfully, share airtime, be present and open to new information and perspectives, assume positive intent, respect each other, respect the group, speak your own truth, communicate directly, honestly and respectfully, ask questions to clarify, call out bias, and be okay with ambiguity. Tonight's schedule is we'll be doing some updates, and then the bulk of the meeting will review and vote on the Veil of Darkness recommendation, and then open it up for public comment tonight, later. Thank you. And the updates are,
All right, thanks, Tia.
yes, thank you.
So, obviously the election was last week. Lots going on.
Mhm.
But I think it's important we talk about it in this space, just given how we're impacted by the election, who's on council, who's the mayor. We work very closely and give recommendations to the mayor and have only existed under Mayor Wheeler. And so it'll be like we'll have to focus on building a kind of new partnership with Keith Wilson and see how that goes. And then there's also 10 new city council members. And this has been like a huge expansion from the 4 to the 12. And I think as a group, PCCEP has been talking a little bit about 11. Okay. PCCEP has been talking about like being more involved with council and trying to attend meetings when we can and share that kind of thing. So I think like that's exciting as well, that we can forge those partnerships and hopefully create new relationships with the new council and the new mayor. Yeah, also with ranked choice voting and district voting, I think that brings more district voice to things. So maybe that will impact our work as well. I think there's lots to see how these transitions unfold, and we'll just have to stay chugging along.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just say, you know, and we don't have to talk about it right now, but I
Mhm.
think it's something that would be nice for us to chat about eventually is that, you know, how do we introduce PCCEP to the new council and the new mayor and just kind of like all those introductions and all those like, you know, I know this is a you know, down the road a bit, but I think it'd be nice to have some sort of game plan for making sure that PCCEP is not lost in this new transition.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it's something we can have like more active conversations about as a committee. Any other thoughts from PCCEP members?
This is Kip. Yeah, I think it would be good to invite new council members to attend PCCEP PCCEP meetings. Got Dan's voice in the back of my head. But yeah, I think it'd be great for them to get more acquainted with the kind of work that we do. Also, I'm looking forward to hopefully having some opportunities to attend the new city council and learn how all that works. And it would be great maybe at some point once things are starting to settle, if we can do an introduction and see if we can whoever our liaison is, hopefully still Stephanie, but I'm not sure how that works. But whoever the new liaison is to introduce us as well.
Yeah, definitely. Jorge?
Yeah, I just wanna like basically emphasize what Kip's saying. Like, try to invite them so they have a sort of understanding of what PCEP is, as well as like, answer any questions that they may have about it.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
we can do this. Oh, sorry. Hands. I forgot.
No, go ahead.
I think like in addition to introducing PCEP to them, I think it'd be great to almost have it like a town hall if possible and have them introduce themselves to the community and, talk about their priorities and things like that. I know that a lot of that happened in, campaigning, but I think it's just a little bit of a mutual touch point.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. And just for the community to hear more about like the council members' thoughts on the issues we're working on. Yeah. Kip?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Leslie said, I think so. Definitely, it would be. I think we should figure out. We don't have to solve for it today, obviously, but how familiar each of the council members and mayor-elect are with why we exist, why the consent decree exists, and maybe have the amici show up also. So I really like the idea of a town hall conversation about not only to introduce all of this to them, but also to hear from the city from our public on what they would hope to see from the new city council.
Yeah. Ashley?
Yeah, I really like this. Yeah, I think a town hall sort of forum feels like a good way to I think even like I think what Kim was saying, kind of make it an educational space for the community and the mayor and the council, and then also being mindful that quorum rules and all that when you have more than half of the council members at a meeting. So maybe it's something we start with like the mayor, since that relationship's going to be the strongest. And I imagine we'll still have quarterly check-ins with the mayor's office. Again, I know that's, still being, the transition will happen and, all the things will sort of fall in place, but we'll make sure to stay on top of that regular check-in and make sure that we, get Mayor-elect Wilson in front of PCEP. Yeah, in early 2025.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Definitely some good brainstorming here. Woohoo. Any other? Yeah, Stephanie?
Yeah, I was just going to add so that everyone here knows, and I'm trying to find the link, but there is a transition team for the city that is working on all kinds of training and onboarding for all of the new electeds. And so they will, there's a lot of information and this is all new for everybody at the city. So just wanted you all to know there's a lot of effort going into that as well to make sure that they have, solid foundations to start their service. And I'm happy to help facilitate in any way, whatever I can to, make sure that you all get to talk with Mayor-elect Wilson. And, you know, as we've said before, and the Mayor Wheeler has committed to you, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that transition, including PCEP and the, you know, the recommendation of Mayor Wheeler to really maintain that strong connection is heard from Mayor Wilson's incoming administration. So more to come on that, I think, as his team takes shape.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it would be great too to have one final meeting with Mayor Wheeler if time allows for it too, just to wrap things up. Devonte?
Yeah, just wanted to kind of echo the sentiments of some of the other members here. I really do support the idea of like a town hall forum where we can kind of introduce ourselves and really get a feel for how much, if anything at all, they know about PCEP and the work that we do. Maybe see where some of them kind of stand as far as how closely they follow some of that work, or how passionate they are about it. I think would be extremely interesting. I'm also very interested to I know it was mentioned that there is like training for the onboarded elects, for them to get caught up to speed and kind of just acclimate to their new positions and new roles. Curious if any of that training goes over like the various committees with the city, or if any of those cover PCEP in particular, briefly or at all would be very interesting to know that.
I can share that. Yeah, absolutely. This DOJ settlement agreement and PCEP and, the very many connected things to this important effort are part of onboarding and training, certainly. And as you all know, it's a huge amount for folks to learn if they don't have familiarity with it. So I expect we'll be having some, continuing conversations. And I think PCEP itself can do a great job of helping to answer questions and make sure that new electeds are connected and plugged in. So yeah, again, happy to facilitate that. But that is absolutely part of the onboarding training.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, really appreciate that clarification. That's great to know. Thank you.
Dory, were you gonna say we should move on?
No, I think we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just one thing to add. I think there's potential. I think PCEP can really look at this opportunity as the fresh start it is in many ways with all of the changes to city council and the new positions, and similar to how PCEP has talked about having discussions and meetings with people around the city and learning more about them prior to having sort of these town halls and public meetings. I think there might be opportunities to meet with the offices of the individual council members and maybe learn more about how they see themselves fitting into the conversations around policing, what their priorities are, and maybe establishing yourselves as a resource to them. And then, yeah, bringing that to the public. So yeah, I think really all I wanted to add was I think there are really opportunities to establish yourself as that resource and help be a line of communication to the public potentially and to their constituents. So
yeah, that would be awesome, I'm sure. And to make this more of a ongoing practice too of being a facilitator of dialogue and information. And I know as a community member, and all community members have a lot of questions about what everyone is thinking. So I think giving them the space to ask that in a non-council meeting would be really special. Yeah. Devonte, is your hand still up?
It is not. I am lowering that right now.
Okay.
And then before we move on, I see Dan's message in the chat. I cannot answer that directly. I do not see a direct line there, but I will say that we, with regards to codification of PCCEP, we are impacted by the political realities as much as any other group or any other issue. And I think we are all aware that the current council is being very cautious about taking action that will impact the future council. And so I'd say that's where we are with it. I don't think there's a direct line between those two things as stated in the chat. But we are definitely impacted by the current situation and kind of the difference between the makeup of the current council and the makeup of the future council. So that's all I can really say about that. But that's all I know, I think, yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, this was a great idea, Leslie, and I think we should keep talking about it and planning these conversations. So this is just me saying that let's keep that ball rolling and think about what we can do preemptively and like before folks come into office, if it's planning. And yeah, that's all. Should we go to the next update?
Sure, I'll take that on. At our last full board meeting that we had downtown, we watched a documentary on the June nightly shooting during a local peaceful justice protest that happened in 2022. The press release was originally incorrect, and although it's been revised a couple of times, the Community Engagement Subcommittee would like to recommend correcting the release to be totally factual and repair the emotional harm that's been done. So I wanted to bring that up, that we really want to move forward with some action after watching the documentary, and wanted to bring it as an update that our thoughts are with it, and wanted to see if PCCEP as a whole would be interested in moving forward with some recommendations around revising the press release and working towards an acknowledgement of the harm done. Any other that?
I'm definitely in favor of talking about it more and working on something and figuring out what that looks like exactly. I think a recommendation could be good for that. What are other PCCEP members' thoughts?
Ashley.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think we I just, when we bring something, a heavy topic like that, specifically like that, to the forum in the way that we did, I do think we need to be very considerate of like what we're doing with that information that we heard. I know some of us talked about this after that event, and the stories that were shared with us, and I think what we've been sort of bouncing back and forth is how how can we use this as a bridge to that trust and transparency path that we want between community and policing in the city. And I think, I think a recommendation, a simple recommendation where we're asking for acknowledgement and correction of the wording, because we have the facts, there's facts, they're there. And, I think even possibly asking the recommendation for an apology, whether that's an apology or an acknowledgement, however, we want to maybe slice that. I think that could be also part of the recommendation. And then I think another, thinking of strategy around this, a little bit, this week about, how do we, is this an opportunity where we, talk with somebody in PPB or in the mayor's office about bridging some conversation before we bring it to the public space in terms of a recommendation draft or like a storyline? I'm always leaning towards trying to go that route first, get, not get buy-in, but get some understanding like, hey, this is why we're trying to do this. I think this is something we can bring to the mayor's office for support. It's been kind of a part of our strategy for recommendation building is like, well, how do we make it realistic? And so setting expectations with, the mayor's office and the city in any way we can. And those kind of like more internal meetings. I'd like to propose we follow that route, just keep drafting what we want to draft, bring it to the public, but maybe in the interim, we try to talk to somebody about like, whether it's PPB's communication or the chief or, maybe the mayor's office can help guide that, that route. I think that could be a good strategy for us to make this meaningful. Cause like, I think it's one thing to ask the PPB and the city to say, thank you, or, to say, yep, we were wrong. I think we want them to understand like, what did we hear and what did we learn? And how do we make that, acknowledgement really meaningful, together? So it's something that they're brought in to do. And not we're just like, hey, go do it through this recommendation. So that'd be my kind of thinking about strategy and also thinking about how the recommendation should have written in it. Thanks.
Devontae, did you have a hand that disappeared?
I did have a hand that disappeared, but I figured for my comment, it perhaps might be better if the PCCEP members wanted to contribute. My comment does pertain to it, but I feel like it's best for me to wait so others are able to comment.
Go for it, Kip.
Yeah, well, I'm 100% behind discussing a recommendation. I think the most basic thing that I've seen discussed for a recommendation is correcting the record. Beyond that, yeah, maybe we need more discussion if it's going to go beyond that basic thing. So I'm also curious. I see Stephanie's hand up, so I'm curious on what else there is that might be happening that we're not aware of, maybe. So
Yeah, thank you all. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to be with you at that last meeting. But I know I sent an email kind of outlining some of my involvement and the mayor's office involvement. I kind of echo Ashley's suggestion in trying to have some preliminary conversations, because I think there has been a lot that's happened in the intervening 2 years. And I think, and I let Tia know this earlier, but in my email, I had talked about, a meeting that was happening with the mayor and the chief and Dag Goodman's mother and caregiver. And that happened yesterday. So these are all very current conversations that are still happening. And I think it would probably help inform any recommendations PCCEP wants to make, to hear from the chief and hear from like the PPB's PIO, a public information officer, who is, new, and sort of what they have done in the time between these incidents, and how, they're how they've looked at it, what they've learned from this, or, just to sort of hear where they're at. And I think you might be able to get a more round recommendation made if you have some of those updates. And I'm happy to help facilitate with that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I was going to bring that up too. I forgot I wanted to say that in my message that since sort of organizing this event, we've learned, you know, some of the steps that the city has already taken in terms of acknowledging and correcting. But so thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a really important key piece of information around this, that the city isn't just staying silent. They are working with the families. They are trying to do their due diligence. And so you're right. I think that that's part of, like, you know, what messaging we want in our recommendation around this.
Go ahead, Devontae.
Yeah, I just wanted to wait and let others get their thoughts out, to kind of temper my own. I do believe that Ashley's approach would be most beneficial, as it would probably be the most effective, and also the most collaborative, as opposed to coming off aggressive in our approach. I feel like it might be beneficial just to, as was stated, kind of better inform ourselves so that we are able to have a more insightful recommendation in regard to this. And also because there is so much trauma and harm that's been done, we just want to make sure that we're being trauma informed as we approach something that's that kind of sensitive. I guess I'm still wrestling with the idea that, you know, we're not sure what's going to happen with the codification, with this transitional project, transitional time. So for me, not to say that it has to be one or the other, but I wonder if there's anything that we could put forth to try to, how do I want to say this? I guess any effort that we can make before the transition is finalized to try to take a step towards that. I don't know if our efforts wouldn't be better put into kind of actualizing that, because like you said, that we are you know, heavily impacted by this transition. So if there's any, you know, value that we can get out of the current administration before that change, I would think that that would maybe be the most important and critical use of our time. I don't know what we would be able to do or put forth, but I wanted to bring that up because, you know, we don't know what the next, you know, council and the mayor, you know, what that's going to look like, as far as whether or not we're going to have, as, you know, successful of a relationship. That's going to take time. You know, with time, things happen, things change, things get lost in translation.
Yeah, I think that topic might be best saved for another time, where I'm happy to meet with any of you offline to talk about it more, just because of the goals of this meeting.
Okay.
But Devontae, I agree with you. The future is uncertain. What might be more certain, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but what might be more certain is the present. And that is just, again, a reality we may be dealing with. Not to say that we can't kind of think and strategize, but we may just be in sort of a bit of a bind as that goes. But happy to discuss that more, strategize more with you all, maybe at a different time, because we're over on this section. Odelia, is your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, just bringing it back to the discussion of Normandale Park, I think it's really hard, and I really think it's important to, like Ashley was saying, do something that will create like meaningful and impactful change. And I think asking for PPB to change their statement is like some form of accountability, but I also think like a lot more went into it, and the impacts were like very large, of like who was affected and how, and just lots of things. And it's like very kind of political, I guess, as some would say. But yeah, I think like we definitely need to continue this conversation and like center those who were impacted and just like, yeah, make sure what we're doing is meaningful to the community. And I guess I'm still not sure exactly what that looks like for me, but it's just something I think we should keep talking about. But yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I took some good notes and we'll get back with everyone as time allows.
And one last, we're still in the updates section technically.
Okay.
I forgot to include this really, really important one. We are appointing 4 new PCCEP members on Wednesday, November 20th. We do have a meeting that day as well, but it's happening in the afternoon, so before that meeting. Really excited about those 4 new members. They're fantastic. And we're also hosting the new member orientation that Saturday, the 23rd, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I will be inviting some of you PCCEP folks, or all of you are invited. So we're just getting that scheduled now. If you happen to be free that day and can stop by for like half an hour or an hour, whatever, it would be really great to welcome our new folks with some of you current members. So yeah, just wanted to quickly get that in there. And now I think we can move on to the main portion of the meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. So I think, yeah, we were hoping to review the Veil of Darkness recommendation that we spoke about at last month's meeting, that Devontae read. And so just a few updates on I think it's November 23rd, right, Dory? To Tia's question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just some updates. We learned that an Oregon State Commission called the Criminal Justice Commission conducts the Veil of Darkness analysis for police departments statewide. So this analysis already exists in Oregon, and we think that PPB should utilize this existing analysis. And then a second update is we added some specificity regarding how Veil of Darkness analysis should be displayed or discussed in annual reports and the timeline for backlogging them. So just how we want them to essentially be incorporated into reporting and how the community can understand them. And then the third update is the end sections analyzing equity impacts of the recommendation. So those are the main updates on what we reviewed last month. And should we just read it again? Yeah.
Yeah, up to you all. We can read through the whole thing again, or we could just highlight the parts that changed more substantially. But I will pull that up.
Okay. What would be helpful to members? Do you want to just?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful when we pull it up to go through it, but I had a quick question about the new information about the statewide. So are they doing just a few police departments across the state, or is it all the
all
police?
of them?
All of them. So, but they're not currently analyzing PPB's data?
They are analyzing PPB. Yes, all, it's inclusive of all of the police departments across the state.
So that it's there already. PPB would just need to put it into their reports, basically.
Exactly. So I think the way that the recommendation has changed is just acknowledging that the data and analysis already exists. So that's even better. But there is still a desire, based on discussions that have been had, and where this all originated, a desire for PPB to do their own discussion portion and engagement with that data in the annual stops report. So that is what is reflected.
No, that's great. That would help support the public trust.
Oh, and one interesting thing, and I can link it in the chat. Liz found the report for us, which was really helpful, and the state's report, the commission. And an interesting thing that I noticed was that report puts veil of darkness analysis in direct contrast with benchmarking. So it says we deliberately do this rather than the standard of police departments and police analysis, nationwide, because there are these flaws or not necessarily flaws, but controversies associated with that type of analysis. And so we choose it for these various reasons, and it goes into that discussion in the report, which I found interesting because that was where this idea kind of originated with PCCEP, was kind of years of discussion about the benchmarking and confusion about the benchmarking and other types of comments about it. So I think it just really bolsters the whole idea of adding it as something to enhance public understanding and trust in the data. And I can link that, or maybe Liz can link that in the chat, the state report, since I have this pulled up. So
It already
anyways.
is.
Oh, very good. Great. I can't see anything.
One other quick clarification. The benchmarking was when they were looking at traffic accidents, right? And then
Yeah.
finding the different categories of.
Yeah, that's the benchmark that PPB uses.
Yeah.
The state commission report does acknowledge that typical benchmarking is based on census data. And PPB does say we don't do census data benchmarking because XYZ. So we're using a different benchmark. But generally speaking, some discussion about both the statistical method and then also the type of benchmark in that report, the state report. So yeah. Okay. So I will just leave it up to Odelia and other subcommittee members about how you want to engage with this. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to read it all the way through. It just is really what other folks who are here want, and what would be most useful for you all to understand the recommendation. It's not very long, that helps, but we
It might
also
be helpful for the community members to hear it read, even if the
Yeah.
PCCEPs are familiar with it.
Yeah. Devante?
Yeah, yeah, we could read it all the way through, but I mean, we could also just kind of paraphrase and hit some of the key points, and then maybe highlight, what has changed or how we've adjusted it with the newfound information that we now have about the studies or the data already being, available. That would probably also be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if not everyone was at our meeting last time when we talked about it. Leslie and Ashley, did you have thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I was just, I think, gonna say the same thing that Devante said, if we can do thorough read through, or just like complete read through and then highlight the pieces, that way anybody that wasn't here can read it, or can hear it. And then highlight what was updated.
Okay. Sounds good. I can start reading it, and then I might stop and ask someone else to do it. All right.
I propose we just read the body, and we don't need to read the summary or the this portion at the end. I think we can just glance at this portion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just do the body.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The existing stops data report offers valuable information about the frequency and demographics of stops made by PPP officers. PCCEP understands that PPB began collecting stops data in 2001 following state and city level recommendations to adopt specific policies prohibiting stops and searches, quote, motivated by the officer's perception of race, color, sex, or national origin, unquote, and to collect data on the topic. We know that the PPB Strategic Services Division is committed to producing a high-quality product, and we appreciate the opportunity to review their reports each year. The subject of benchmarking and specifically using the injury collision benchmark to assess stop rates across demographic groups has generated much discussion over the years. While we understand the purpose of benchmarking is to control for other confounding variables that might impact why a driver is stopped, we also know that data analysis can be subjective like anything else. We believe that the PPB can take additional steps to help improve transparency and trust in the data they are producing about stop rates across racial groups. To improve the Bureau's and the public's understanding about whether PPB stops are equitably distributed among racial groups, PCCEP recommends incorporating an additional analytical framework. Veil of darkness, or VOD, analysis is a statistical method based on the idea that during nighttime hours, the visibility of a person's race or ethnicity decreases. By comparing police stops during the day to those at night, researchers can evaluate whether racial disparities in stops are influenced by the visibility of race. Veil of darkness analysis has shown to be a robust method for evaluating potential biases in policing. One study conducted by Stanford University analyzing 95 million traffic stops records from 2011 to 2018 showed obvious trends of racial bias in traffic stops, something that can occur subconsciously. Although PCCEP recognizes there is some need to address confounding variables through a method like benchmarking, Veil of darkness analysis provides the PPB with an opportunity to enhance their understanding of racial disparities in stops. Analyzing PPB's data in such a way will pave way for changes to stops methods and training if trends show changes are needed. We recommend that Portland Police Bureau take the following actions. 1. Integrate veil of darkness analysis. Include a detailed veil of darkness analysis in the annual stops data report. This analysis should differentiate between stops made during daylight hours and those made after sunset, providing a clearer picture of racial disparities in traffic stops. PCCEP recommends veil of darkness analysis be conducted for all future reports, as well as all past annual stops data reports in order to establish and evaluate trends. The SSD team may be aware that the State of Oregon Criminal Justice Commission conducts VOD analysis for police departments statewide. CJC uses the term decision to stop for the VOD analysis in their reports. PCCEP recommends that the SSD team utilize the existing state VOD data to conduct their own analysis for PPB annual stops data reports. Oh my gosh, okay. PCCEP recommends that the SSD team include veil of darkness analysis and discussion henceforth in every annual stops data report. In order to analyze the backlog of reports from 2001 to 2023, we recommend that PPB include an additional 5 years of backlog analysis in each new annual report until all past PPB annual stops data reports have been analyzed for veil of darkness. Second recommendation is public reporting. Share the findings of the veil of darkness analysis publicly as part of the annual stops data report. This transparency will help build trust within the community and demonstrate the PPB's commitment to addressing potential biases in policing. Similar to the state CJC report, PCCEP requests that the veil of darkness data be presented in table form as a logistic regression of minority status on daylight. The table should have a clear explanation about what constitutes evidence of a racial disparity in stops. PCCEP strongly recommends that the SSD team prepare a discussion section about the implications of VOD findings that is separate from the benchmarking findings. The SSD team should compare the findings between sections and respective implications for racial disparities in stops, but the VOD findings must stand alone. 3, engage with community stakeholders. Collaborate with community members, advocacy groups, and academic experts to interpret the analysis's results and develop actionable strategies for improving equitable policing practices. Expected outcomes, enhance understanding of racial equity. The Veil of Darkness analysis will provide critical insights into whether traffic stops are applied equitably across different racial groups, helping to identify and address any disparities. Informed policy development. By understanding the factors that contribute to unequal stop patterns, if any should emerge, the PPB can better tailor its training and policy initiatives to promote fair and just policing practices. Strengthen community relations. The proactive approach of incorporating this analysis will demonstrate PPB's dedication to transparency and accountability, fostering greater trust between law enforcement and community. And the conclusion. Implementing a Veil of Darkness analysis in the PPB's annual STOPS data report represents a meaningful step towards achieving racial equity in policing. We urge you to consider this recommendation as part of your ongoing efforts of more equitable policing, but also to enhance the relationship between the Portland Police Bureau and the communities it serves. We view this as a positive step PPB can take to increase transparency. We urge PPB to take advantage of this opportunity to build trust with the community. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. We look forward to collaborating on initiatives that promote equity and justice in our community. All right. Thoughts? Devontae, is your hand up? Leslie?
So okay, I'm not even sure if I'm throwing a wrench into things. But we say implementing, since this analysis already exists, I guess, are we asking for PPB to do their own or incorporate it? I guess that was the part where I'm like, the analysis is already being done but not, I guess, not by PPB, and that's what we're asking.
Yeah, and we're asking them to put it in the
Right.
annual data, the stops data. But Dory, do you have a better answer than?
I think the problem is in the wording of the first #1 recommendation, that middle paragraph. Because Leslie, you and I sometimes stumble. We say in the second paragraph, the last sentence, VOD did to conduct their own analysis for PPB annual stops data.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. I think the idea would be because if we want PPB to engage with the Veil of Darkness analysis, data analysis that has been done, the idea would be that they would conduct their own qualitative review and put that in the stops report. And potentially, as it says later, I don't imagine that PPB, and I don't think PCCEP has discussed requesting that they get rid of benchmarking, but also, so I guess the idea would also be they would maybe integrate that or discuss that in tandem with the benchmarking analysis that has also been done. So I guess that's what the word analysis is doing there, but I understand what you're saying is there are different kinds of, there's the data and then there's the discussion part. So, I mean, yeah, we can sort of copy edit that portion.
Yeah, Carrie?
My only other thing was to add under references a link to the PCCEP meetings where we talked about Veil of Darkness and
a good idea.
Stops data.
Nice. All right, Stephanie?
I just want to clarify a little bit more along the lines of what Leslie was asking. So it's not that the recommendation is asking SSD to do a duplicative stops data analysis. It's that PCCEP wants in the stop data report something that discusses how PPB is considering that data. Is that right?
Yeah, because I just wouldn't want there to be some like rejection of this recommendation because it's already being done or on the basis that it's already being done somewhere. You know, that would be like my concern if we don't clarify that a little bit more.
That's exactly my concern too. Yeah, because because I think if we're asking them to do a new data statistical analysis, then we need to explain what new methodology it is we expect them to use. But if we just want to know how PPB is using the state's data, which comes from PPB, obviously, then I think we can be clearer about that.
Sure, yeah. Any areas that need to be more clear besides, I think maybe review is a better word here?
Devontae, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I'm on my phone, so it's less intuitive to go from switching my hand up and down. So I apologize for that. So I think it would still be extremely invaluable because as far as I know, I don't think they even referenced in the previous stops data report. And we're just now finding out that there's already this data being gathered by the state, but I don't think they even referenced that in the previous stops data report. So if they're not going to duplicate it as a way of them indicating that they see the value in the information, they at least need to include the veil of darkness study or data that the state has already compiled, and add that into the report, because I definitely think that is a metric that had it been there, the data analyst could have spoke more to what that indicates or what that means in comparison with some of the other metrics that they included. So I don't know if that's kind of the general vibe that's coming from this recommendation.
I think it is. Yeah.
Maybe I like the rearrange in that sentence, last sentence of the second paragraph. Now, PCCEP recommends VOD analysis be integrated. CIC's VOD analysis be integrated into all PPB stops data reports. And then the next sentence can talk about, I thought qualitative analysis made it clear to me.
Yeah, I agree.
In what sentence? Sorry, qualitative where?
The next sentence that I think you cut from the top, but you haven't pasted yet.
That's this one here. No other pasting.
Oh, okay.
You mean this one here?
No. It was the one where we were struggling over the word analysis, and then you changed it to review.
Their own review. Yeah.
Okay. PCCEP grants that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, we're just trying to retrofit this essentially for this newfound information, but I think everyone's understanding is accurate as far as I'm hearing it.
It's very, I thought it was great when I read it earlier today.
Can I make just one other wordsmithing suggestion on the prior paragraph? The SSD team, I would recommend saying, as the SSD team is aware, because they're very aware of this report too. Yeah.
Any other thoughts or other parts of it coming up for people?
And I will go through and read for areas where it might, because I think it's all stands, like, I think the sort of discussion about why this analysis is valuable and what it adds, I think that all stands in the beginning. I don't think there's much need to revise that, even if PCEP isn't, if the PPV doesn't need to do the analysis themselves. So I think the beginning is probably fine, but I will take a look. And then I'll go through and copy edit for areas where there may be confusion about this integration portion is really what it is. Jorge?
Yeah. The only I'm trying to like see if it's like a concern or a question for me is I do agree with the part where it's like integrated for all future reports on like the second paragraph. The only thing is as well as past annual stops data reports, how far back are we thinking for that part?
So yeah, Dory highlighted it. Stops reports started in 2001, so 23 years, 24.
Okay.
I don't know.
And
Yeah.
then
But
okay.
yeah, go ahead.
And this is probably like a Stephanie question on like because I know like going back 23 years might be that's maybe a difficult thing, maybe not. And it would also take a lot of time because 23 years going through all that type of data and then also adding the analysis. So I'm like, Stephanie, do you see some like trouble or conflict there?
Really quickly, if I could answer part of it, and then Stephanie, if you have more to add. I think we tried to think about that a little bit. And so one thing, I mean, I don't know how it really works, but I know you like run some sort of code or like regression model. And so I think it's more about like plugging that data in, but we did want to work that time in. So Dory highlighted it on the screen, but we recommend that PPB include an additional 5 years of backlog analysis in each new annual report until all past PPB annual stops data reports have been analyzed. So we're trying to give them that time to do that. But if it doesn't take that long, that would be great too. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add to that question, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. So I think it's it's worth asking for. The other thing that I'm seeing that might be an obstacle is that I am assuming there have been probably more than a couple of different records management systems. And I don't know how all that old of data is stored. So there may be some additional stuff, but the data team can speak to that and answer that. And if there is a concern, I think they can communicate that, and that can be shared with PCCEP.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. And we were thinking the same thing, that hopefully we'll be able to figure it out together.
Yeah, and for anyone who wasn't at the initial meeting where we discussed this detail here we added this because of public comment that we received kind of along those lines. I think Dan and others suggested building it into future reports, which we thought was a good idea, and having it be kind of segmented out until they could catch up. So that did come from a piece of public comment. And yeah, I think similar to how PCCEP will meet with the mayor to discuss, like, just have sort of a policy discussion about recommendations to the mayor. I think it would be really great if once submitted, we could meet with the SSD team and talk through some of the challenges or opportunities with this recommendation, and kind of just level set on what your hope is here. Because yeah, sometimes things get missed in writing, no matter how perfectly they're written.
Sounds good. Any other thoughts, concerns? Do people feel comfortable voting on this today?
I do. I think this is really great. Really thank all your work on it, Adelia and everybody else. And I think we got some good advice today. And yeah, I'm ready to put it into a vote.
Okay. Cool. Shall we?
So if if PCCEP's feeling ready to move to a vote, we would then hear public comment.
Oh, right.
If there is any. I know we've already heard
Yeah.
it on this. PCCEP, any other kind of comments as we move to a final review here? Devonte?
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I'm just really excited that we found out that the data already exists, because that really puts us at a much better starting point, and hopefully something good comes out of it.
Totally.
Just thank you for all the hard work. This is really great.
All right, so I think I'm hearing a desire to hear some open public comment on this. I think I see a hand from Dr. Elizabeth Allen. Go ahead, Dr. Allen.
What I have is questions like why they didn't do this in the first place and who decided not to. And since there's a great deal of turnover, is the decision about not using this analysis just a matter of habit, or do they have reasons? And why did it take us so long to find out it exists?
Yeah, I have the same question. I was thinking about like the accessibility of it too, and of the data and other data that might exist that we don't know about. Yeah, thanks for your questions.
And can we ask those people who do this data analysis, are there more people we should know about? Maybe they know about more people that we don't know.
Maybe we can, if we do have follow-up conversations with the SSD, maybe that can be something we could maybe ask them about.
Didn't they know we exist? I mean, how many years have we had to exist before they would raise their hand and say, hi?
What do you, clarifying question, what do you mean by more people? I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, this is a whole commission that we don't know exists as of.
Oh, I see.
Like
Yes.
more bodies that do this research or like publish reports about this.
Gotcha. Yeah, probably because it's a state commission is maybe certainly why I wasn't aware of it until we dug into this. So yeah, there's so many parts of government. But yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
But they might know about other commissions or organizations. I mean, I don't want to get too involved in the alphabet soup because then you'll miss one when you alphabetize. I just wonder if there's more out there. More audit functions, more of all kinds of analysis out there. And why would we want to reinvent the wheel? Let's get people to raise their hand and say, look, what we have.
I hear you. Yeah, I think one of the great challenges of all parts of government is kind of no surprise to anybody, but bringing together the disparate parts of all of these systems, right? And I think that that is a cool thing PCCEP is doing here, is sort of pointing out, hey, this thing exists, and the SSD team absolutely knows about it. And you get to, or PCCEP gets to be that community function of saying this is really valuable to the community. But yeah, that is certainly a big challenge we deal with. Any other public comment on this recommendation before we bring it to a vote? All right. Not seeing any hands, so I think we can go ahead and do a roll call here. So PCCEP, if you are ready to vote to approve this recommendation, please raise your hand on Zoom or in the camera. All right, I see everyone's hand. That is fantastic. All right, congratulations, folks. You have approved this recommendation. Great job.
Lori, I think you need a gavel.
I would love a gavel.
Ceremonious.
That's a good idea. You guys could write a recommendation to get me a gavel.
I got a gavel. I'll bring it to the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Let's take Judge Simon's gavel, give it to Dory.
I like it. Passing on the power.
That was a joke.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah, great job, everybody. So I'm gonna copy edit this recommendation. I will send you the final version. And if I miss anything, please let me know. But I think we're in a solid place here. I'm just gonna pay attention to making sure that analysis piece is very clear about what's being requested. And then we will send this off to the chief and the SSD team, and I think we can also move to set up a meeting with that team to talk about the requests in this recommendation. So really good work here. Really excited about this one. I think it's going to be cool to see, hopefully. I still see. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to say, like, I think these stop data are going to keep coming out, and I think we might continue to have similar conversations about, like, for me, the benchmarking sometimes gets lost on me, and I think it's interesting that at the state level they don't use that, and I think that's something we can keep in mind. And also, as Dr. Silver was saying, like, there's a bunch of other things that probably do exist that aren't in stops data, and so just to think about those things too, and how we can just continue seeking transparency around stops. I think this is like a step there, but I think there's a lot more that can be done, and so it's just something I think be great to keep thinking about as a committee. Dr. Allen, that's my bad. Yep.
We're blessed with the presence of 2 doctors this evening.
Wow. Dream come true.
And I want to be clear. I'm not totally sure if the state does benchmarking analysis or not. This commission does not. Yeah.
Okay. That's
but
helpful.
Yeah, but there was an interesting discussion that this commission did have about it. Yeah, agreed though. Any other comments on this?
Leslie, is your hand up?
Oh no, I was still voting. Sorry.
Great. Well, do we have anything else to touch base on while we're here? We made really quick work of a lot of important topics and had really robust discussion on all of them. So good stuff tonight.
I have one more thing to say, that I think while we were talking about stops data, it kind of had two parts. We've been talking about the veil of darkness analysis because we felt like it was a pretty simple recommendation to make, but also I know that we've been talking about pretext stops on and off for a few months. So I just kind of wanted to bring that back to this space and see if we should talk about that more, like how we want, I don't know, or just throw it out there. Yeah.
I don't know that I'm ready to talk about it today, but I also found the PPB's flash alerts over the last couple of weeks kind of different. There were, lots of arrests, and arresting criminals is great, but it seemed like different tactics were used. And I know with the preparation of our RT and everything, and what it sounded more FIT like, but I don't really, I'm not prepared to talk about it today, but I thought that was something I wanted to prepare before we have our next agenda setting discussion.
Thanks for raising that, Carrie. Any other housekeeping ideas you wanted to mention or things that have come up? I have just a little bit of housekeeping. So I mentioned our appointments on the 20th. And I think as many of you know, both, either whether you've been on PCCEP through December, well, really November and December before, or you've just experienced the holidays in your normal life. It is a challenging time, I think, for a volunteer committee to meet. So we will kind of be looking at the schedule for December and see kind of what we can work with. One goal that I do have is to schedule a retreat sooner than later, if at all possible in December. I think that might be a good use of our time, especially as we have some new members joining us. And also because I'm hoping to schedule PCCEP elections as soon as possibly possible. And in order to do that, I want to give our new members a chance to really get to know you all. And so it would be great if we could get a retreat on the books and then have elections sometime in early mid-January. So that might be ambitious, but I'm hoping to see if we have the availability there. And I just wanted to mention that here, since I think all of you are here tonight. So we will see what we end up with. So just kind of be aware of that stuff on the horizon. And Tia?
I just wanted to clarify in regards to the June nightly situation and recommendation. Would I be able to start working on a recommendation to move forward with our team? Or where can I go with that as a community engagement subcommittee member?
Yeah, I think I'm interested in that. I think I heard from Ashley, she was as well, and Kip was too. But I think that there is more conversation to be had around what it should look like.
Right.
Kip, was that correct? Go ahead.
Kip, is your hand up?
My mic was off. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in moving forward with recommendation or recommendations. Have a little bit of question about if we're tabling it, we can table it for now, but I was unsure about the difference between what we want to come out in different aspects. The primary focus I was paying attention to or dialed into was a correction of the statement on the city website, which has not been updated since 2022. So I don't know if that falls into some of the complications of the other conversations that were going on that was mentioned earlier. But maybe there's an opportunity to make a recommendation that the report get updated, and maybe there's a second part of a recommendation that can be made for other things that we think should also be addressed.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I think that like what keeps coming up for me is how many other times this has potentially happened and there hasn't been a documentary about it, or just when like there is misinformation and the harm that that can cause. And also like, why was this person labeled like a homeowner, and why was it not about, I don't know, there's just all of these questions I have about how these stories are told that goes a lot further beyond just like armed protesters, like that being the solo issue. So I think like yeah, that's kind of where my head is at. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Tia, to answer your question, I think the answer for right now is no. I don't think there's enough clarity among the committee to move forward to have somebody be drafting, though it's always helpful to even sketch things out as you've done already. But I think maybe as a first step, we could request some meetings or try to have a conversation with city folks who we think are relevant, as people talked about earlier in this meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Leslie?
I definitely, echo what Odelia was saying about, there being a lot of questions being brought up by this event and this documentary, and just kind of like about procedure and things like that. I do wonder, I mean, if we make this recommendation, I think it's an actionable recommendation that is maybe like one step of things. Like, it doesn't necessarily prohibit us from seeking out more in kind of these situations, but it is a start. And I think that that's kind of like, it's a clear enough ask that it gives us a lot of guidance. That's
So are you suggesting doing like a recommendation now and then talking more about what a second or other ones could look like?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering, because it doesn't like, we don't have to touch a subject just once, but I think this is an immediate thing that we can ask that is clear, and will give us a lot of information.
I hear what you're saying, Leslie. I think there's maybe a sort of simple request at the heart of this, and then maybe a just honestly like ongoing conversation that fits into so many other things that you all have discussed in the past too. So different ways to look at it for sure.
What do other people think about Leslie's idea?
So to
It makes sense to me.
So
Yeah.
to clarify, Leslie was saying to I'm sorry, can you explain exactly what it was?
Yeah, I can, making the recommendation to, which honestly it shouldn't need a recommendation, I guess is what I'm saying. We're making a recommendation for them for, to like, fix information that was false in their report to amend the report and to like essentially retract. I don't know if and even maybe ask for like a release to clarify the information and put the real information out there. And I don't think I think that can be a recommendation, and we can still continue working on the other things that were brought up as a result of where this recommendation comes from.
And, okay, that's, but weren't we just talking a little bit ago about continuing to discuss this before we start on a recommendation?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying
Okay.
we don't have to, like, we don't have a one shot at a recommendation. I think this is one recommendation we can submit, just like an immediate thing, and then continue having discussions about like what more we want to see. But I think this is
Okay.
enough of a clear ask that is like,
Mhm.
hey, immediately, this, the discussion is ongoing, but this is one thing we see that you can fix like right now.
Yeah, I agree that I think like
Timing,
this being an ask isn't going to change unless they were to fix it.
I also wonder timing wise, whether or not, I mean, the doing it now or doing it in 4 months might, is not going to make a huge difference. But if we write the recommendation and ask now versus 10 months, 4 months after codification, maybe it would, just make it a little easier for us to focus on some other, I don't know, I'm not trying to sway, but I'm
Totally.
just thinking about timing.
Yeah, I think that is worth discussing. I think it makes a difference to the people that this is impacting. And I think it makes a difference.
I did not mean to belittle the
No, I
urgency of
totally.
it, but
Yeah,
I'm just thinking in all of our projects right now, it is a very important one, definitely. I'm just thinking about the timing of this and codification and the other things that we have coming up.
Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, I was just kind of seconding what I think I hear Leslie saying is kind of a reiteration or different approach to what I was saying, is that I think there are some actionable things that we can ask for now, but there are some bigger things that need to be addressed. So if we want to decide to put it all together at some point, fine. But I think just correcting the record, again, I tend to struggle with when there's outdated or incorrect information being provided from public officials that doesn't get updated or corrected in a timely manner. It makes me itchy. So that was kind of like my initial focus, is maybe at least the formal record or the public statement can get updated, then the larger picture items we can continue working on in a broader fashion, if that's a larger recommendation we want to work on.
Stephanie?
Yeah, of course, respect the decision of the group on how to move forward. I do just want to add, since I have been working with these folks for a long time now, and since there have also been meetings with leadership specifically on these issues, I really think that PCCEP would really benefit from having a conversation with leadership before making a recommendation, just to
Sure.
fully understand what efforts are already underway, and make sure that a recommendation coming from PCCEP is is as impactful as it can be. I do also just want to say that there are very diverse feelings about this incident among the survivors of this. Not necessarily specifically to correcting the record, but they are all in very different phases of grief and of healing. And so I have tried really hard to be really mindful of that as I'm engaging with them and trying not to add trauma to anything, but trying only to be healing. And so I just want to put that out there as something that, that should be considered when making recommendations about this, when, without necessarily having all of the perspectives from the folks who lived through it. And I'm sure that there are people here who know these good people and are familiar with what they have been through, but just it's a group. There are a few different kind of groups and they're not always on the same page about things. So I guess that's all I just want to make sure people know, is just that this is a hugely traumatic event. And I know that goes without saying. I know that you all understand that and care about it. I just want to make sure that all of the efforts that are intended to help them are helpful and healing and, aligned with what their goals are.
Yeah. And Tia, I just want to add to what you were just saying, Stephanie, but Tia, I see your comment in the chat. To that end, I think going forward with having some conversations to understand what is going on and already in motion will help decide what we want to do next. So I would recommend moving forward on that.
I think that makes sense. Like, if there is, for whatever reason, a process that needs to be followed to correct information, I'm open to hearing what that process is and what is already being done. But I guess my main thing is, like, we don't have to do everything all at once. We can tackle the things, I think, at a more moderate pace, or
Yeah, totally. I agree. And I think like it's so important to make sure like this doesn't cause more harm, right? And like I think from what I saw in the documentary and from what I heard from folks that were there throughout the documentary was that there was like some pretty serious harm caused, and that change is necessary. And so I do think I'm kind of on Leslie's boat of like, I think we could do a recommendation now and then talk more about doing one later, but the one now could just be like a statement correction.
Do you mean before we talk to the officials that Stephanie's recommending we talk to?
Yeah, because I think that, I don't know, I guess I'm like, a part of me is like,
It may not sway us. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was thinking meeting with the people is not because we're trying to be swayed or we're looking to but new information might be available.
Yeah.
Then, make us be more educated and up to date in our recommendation.
Yeah. No, I hear that, but I also do think that like I don't think this would be their first time hearing that ask. From what I assume that community members have asked for this to be changed and have pointed it out. And so
I definitely still ask it. I'm just not sure timing.
Yeah. And I also think it's
we have.
I think it's also about how PCCEP recommendations are perceived. Like, I think that it's like, this is why we exist, to like make recommendations. And so I think like, I don't think it's like a bad thing to get a PCCEP recommendation, and I don't think that's what anyone is saying, but I just think like we can reframe that a little bit of like, yeah, we're making this recommendation that you change this. And like, it doesn't have to be like, well, why didn't you talk to us about it for, like, not that that's how it would go, but just like why.
I
Well,
totally hear you. Go ahead.
I think I think we're having a couple different conversations, and they're like
Yeah.
about the different possible versions of what this recommendation could be. I would say, and I think it's what Leslie's saying. We've said this before, and PCEP's never done it. PCEP could write a 1-sentence recommendation. It'd be cool if PCEP started doing that. Imagine how easy it would be. No,
I
but
can do it
but
in haiku form.
yeah, we could. Yeah, exactly. But in all seriousness, for in some situations, that might be all that is called for. And what I have heard, I think, is consensus around probably just one very narrow part of this conversation that is unlikely to change based on like more information or conversations or whatever. It might, it might give more context to why the situation still is what it is, but it may not, it may be the case that your opinions about whether the record should be corrected, that opinion will stay the same. Like it is what it is now, and
Yeah.
it is what it will. But so if that's all the recommendation is, that's a different conversation than if the recommendation is encompassing much broader issues of transparency, police response, and all of these other, Stephanie was mentioning, very different types of feelings that different people involved in the situation might have, and feelings that probably weren't holistically represented in that documentary. So I feel like I just said a lot, but I think there are two kind of paths, and we're discussing them both at the same time. And then it's getting a little confusing for me. So
Okay.
So is there consensus on writing a brief recommendation now that is brief and saying, please correct this press release, and doing more future work and conversations and potential recommendations? Can we do like a thumbs up or something? Or
Yes, but I'd love to try to squeeze that one meeting in before we release even that first one.
Yes, I agree with that.
Leslie?
I'm-
Oh, was that a
Yeah.
hand or?
No,
Yeah.
that was a thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think it will be useful to understand the process. So I think it would be good to have like a quick meeting. But I also think it should be a very short recommendation, and I hope it is an easy one to approve, I guess, accept. Because I think the main point of it is like, one, it shows accountability, that they're willing to be accountable, vulnerability, and it goes a long way with reestablishing the trust that the community doesn't currently have for very good reasons. So I think if we frame it that way, there shouldn't be really that, I don't see the objection.
So let's work
Yeah.
on setting up a meeting with maybe Chief Day, the PIO, folks at PPB who would be involved with the communications aspect, and learn more from them about steps they've already potentially taken to correct the record. It may even be the case that this, it feels like to us like maybe they've heard this a lot, a bunch of times, but it's 2 years ago. It may be the case that this is really not freshly on their radar. We don't know. So we can work on setting up a meeting, kind of hearing where the relevant folks are at, without getting into discussions of, the other many various aspects of the situation. And then you all can kind of regroup and see if it feels right to move forward with a very simple recommendation. Does that sound correct? Great. Okay, yeah, I think we can definitely work on that, and I think that would be not too intensive. It'll just be a matter of that scheduling. Great. Anything else on this, or should we move to open public comment?
Really quickly, Stephanie, would you be able to help us set that up? I know you just said that, but if you could facilitate that or like introduce, thank you.
Yep,
Appreciate it.
happy to do it.
All right, shall we open it up for open public comment?
Yes.
All right. Odelia or Tia, you want to introduce this?
Tia, do you want to do it?
Okay. We are now opening it up to open public comment. Are there any comments left with the all the community members here tonight that we discussed tonight? And what kind of things we'd like to see PCCEP working on next? And Barb, maybe you can talk about your comments.
Barb?
Okay, I will if nobody else wants to do anything first.
Sure, go for it.
Oh, see, Barbara's got her hand up, so
Okay.
let her go first and then I will do mine. And what is in the chat, I will mention, but I didn't mean to put it in the chat, so I'm sorry, you guys.
Oh, okay. Barbara.
Hi, I've heard a great discussion and everything, but I just hope when you make a recommendation for the accurate release, that it's focused on two things. One is the harm to the victims, and that's an important thing. And then, but there's also the misinformation that goes out to the public that gives a false impression of the demonstrators, and has you know, there's a lot of public backlash, as well as in a certain sense intimidating police officers because they are seeing demonstrations as more dangerous than they need to. So I hope that both aspects are taken care of. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. And Barb.
Okay. Hey, you guys. Sorry I couldn't be here for most of the meeting. Let's see. I had two things I wanted to bring up real quick. One is that, and I don't know if anybody talked about it because I wasn't here today at the city council meeting, in the item number that I put in the chat. I can only recommend you guys go and look it up because it is very long and a little bit convoluted because most of it covers stuff that was going on with fire and a particular person, but they also snuck in there some stuff about the rapid response team and firefighters that serve with the police on that, basically getting compensation pay. But what struck me was that they called it the rapid response team. And I know that there had been some talk in here about them not calling it that. So I wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. And I think Stephanie helped me out by putting it in the chat. And then the other thing has to do with history, PCCEP history. And I don't know the date that it was done, but Tia, were you here when we had the subcommittees and we had the joint subcommittee between behavioral health and racial equity? and we put in those 2 recommendations. One was around having the trauma people come out to the families when the police were involved in an officer-involved shooting with family members or their community. And that group is called TIP Northwest, and that's neither here nor there. The other recommendation that was passed and approved was that a statement would be released from the city, basically acknowledging that harm was done, not taking responsibility, but acknowledging, that there's stuff that needs, I don't even know how far it goes, but it was a minimalistic response, and it is something that I have actually looked Bob Taylor in the eye after one of the court hearings and been like, remember about that? And he's like, yeah, I got to get that done, kind of thing. So with the changing of the guard, between PCCEP changing the guard and the city council and everything else, city government changing guard, I just wanted to put that on y'all's radar, not to convolute any recommendation. It just made me think of that history. And Tia, you were here, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Just
All right. Thanks, you guys, for everything you do. Sorry, I'll have to watch you on record.
Thank you, Barb. Wow, thank you, Carrie. Is there anyone else or any other community members who'd like to verbalize anything with us tonight?
So just to clarify, Stephanie, so basically to match the 6%, and that's the 6% that was talked about like months ago about for RRT members, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yep.
Great. All right. Well, a lot going on, to say the least. The work continues. Thank you all for a really productive meeting in spite of it. Seriously, yeah, your brains were working better than mine tonight, so I'm happy to see it. Tia and Odelia, would you like to close this out?
Sure. Odelia?
Yeah. Basically, just second everything Dory said. I think we had really great conversations and looking forward to continuing them. We voted so quickly on a recommendation, which is something to celebrate as well. And hopefully we can just keep talking about these things and brainstorming and collaborating and doing the dang thing.
No worries.
And
Sorry, thank you. I was going to mention the date.
next, oh yeah.
It's November 20th.
Yeah.
Oh, the 20th. Yeah.
And that's also when we'll have new members appointed at council earlier.
Yeah.
Big day for PCCEP.
We need to invite them that evening too. Dive right
Yeah.
in.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thanks. Good
Good
night.
night, everyone. Good work. See you next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.